Dark Souls is a game series with a reputation. It joins a long and venerable list of games with legendary difficulty levels such as Battletoads, Contra, and Ninja Gaiden. Sure, there are games that are harder, but only because they've been designed badly. The games that deserve to go on this list embrace challenge as a part of their fundamental game design. These games are hard in the sense that they require effort from the player. They've been designed in such a way that dying and retrying are not signs of failure, but an integral part of the problem-solving process. You don't fail in a Dark Souls game by dying, you fail by giving up. And I, more than anyone, can relate personally to that sentiment. The way to easily tell if a game uses death as a mechanic instead of a failure signal is if it remembers that you have died and those deaths affect the future. Other games ask you to reload a previous save at the game over screen. But games like Super Meat Boy, Shovel Knight, Diablo, and the Dark Souls series, they give you a penalty and then just let you go on your merry way. Death is the price you pay for knowledge in these games, and the games are not designed in such a way that avoiding death on your first new encounter is the intended outcome. You see, Dark Souls games reward a player for perseverance, and for taking some time to think about things for a second before just going in swinging away with your sword.
Hey! Why are you running? Why are you running? You owe me money. Yeah?
Now let me tell you something, Mr. Man. I'm only running because I don't want you to see me that you're not travel, okay? Now that you have seen me, man!
Once you can get over the instinctive urge to get anxious about dying, you start to see that the games are clearly communicating the path to victory to the player. Now, the Souls series actually has more in common with classic arcade games from the early history of video games, where you had to put in practice time to get better and better at it. The way to win is to observe, strategize, plan, and then practice the execution of that plan until you can pull it off flawlessly. Even if you simply copy the strategy of someone else, you still need to practice executing it, because the game rewards visceral skills such as reaction speeds and timing. I think what really messes with people coming into Dark Souls is how it subverts what progress or achievement really means in the game formula. We've been conditioned by modern mainstream games to think that the closer you are to the end of the game, the more progress you've made. We think that clearing that final hurdle is the main accomplishment in that said game. But Dark Souls is different. You see, Dark Souls has been designed to squeeze an entire game's worth of progression into linear spaces than we're used to. Every section or battle that we have to repeat may seem like we're getting stuck or not making progress, but actually, each time that you play through the same space again, it's a new part of the game, because your experience lets you look at it in a different way. It's sort of like saying in philosophy that you can't cross the same river twice. Learning to play a Souls game well is a lot like learning how to play an instrument or learning a very complex dance sequence. Finally getting it right is an immensely satisfying experience in the same way as mastering any skill. It conjures up the state of flow, a concept from positive psychology which is more commonly known as being in the zone or on fire.
Come here and get burned.
One of the things that Dark Souls games can do better than almost any other is let people experience this said flow. Normal, unremarkable schmoes like you and me can get a taste of this moment, usually reserved for elite athletes or otherwise very talented or beautiful people. But when you really think about it, I think that's really one of the most essential parts of the Dark Souls magic that has so many people hooked on this series. There have been quite a few people who have lamented about missing out when it comes to Dark Souls, as if playing and beating these games is something limited to a very niche group of elite gamers or masochists. If only there was like an easy mode or some other way to experience the game without having to face what may be considered a brutally difficult game series. But through my experience, I think the truth is that in order to get Dark Souls, you have to rethink how you view game progress, mastery, and rewards. Dark Souls isn't a game for masochists per se, It is one of those games that has actual depth rather than illusionary depth. Building longer corridors doesn't give a game depth, but letting you layer deeper and deeper into the same corridor provides a much more meaningful experience. Now, as much fun as the Dark Souls series has been, I'm hoping that the lasting influence that it has on games in the future is not to spawn brutally difficult clones, which, let's be honest, it kind of already has, but to give us more games that are not afraid to care enough about one thing that it fully commits to, and it builds an Onion Knight's worth of layers around it. But regardless, I really feel that, love it or hate it, no one can fail to respect Dark Souls.